I am the Nude Raider. Lara Croft is a far cry from the character we once knew when she was first introduced by Core Design back in 1996. Sure, she was still a brilliant and educated archaeologist with a thirst for adventure, but she also had quite a gargantuan amount of visual appeal. If you take a step back, you'll see that she's had quite the extensive history in the gaming industry since the 90s. Yet, when I think about Lara Croft today, I almost subconsciously separate the Tomb Raider franchise from how it was received back then to how we view it today. It almost feels like the old Lara was an entirely different entity. The Tomb Raider games had a lot more hype surrounding them from the general public, and Lara stood out as a pioneer. While we have a lot of strong female characters in games today, the Tomb Raider franchise was birthed in an era that lacked a lot of that representation. So by default, she had more of a mainstream influence, and I think this higher demand for Lara in the 90s is kind of what has me splitting her franchise in half. She no longer holds that It Girl title. When the Tomb Raider games first blew up, Lara took the gaming community by storm. I mean, she was up against characters like Mario, Sonic, Crash, and even Duke Nukem. The Tomb Raider franchise had two things going for it that really helped to solidify itself with young gamers. The first being, the games were actually good. The Tomb Raider games were critically acclaimed, praised for their unique gameplay, and a massive success for its time. The main character could have just as easily been replaced with, I don't know, an anthropomorphic fox, and I don't think it would have erased how wonderful the games were to experience. Secondly, they created a character whose popularity exceeded that of her own game. Lara was an obvious babe, and this really helped her to stand out and also become super marketable, and gave her a life outside of the Tomb Raider franchise. Not only did she have widespread sex appeal, but Lara herself was a classy, respectable, and intellectual archaeologist. She was more than just her looks, and she was viewed by many as the total package. You take these two elements and you have yourself a successful series of games, a widely recognizable mascot that appeals to not just gamers, and most of all, money. Even if you never played Tomb Raider and saw a picture of her, you'd still know who she was. She was even Playmate of the Month in the 2008 issue of Playboy, a 3D video game character in 2008. Just think about that. How many characters at the time do you think were desirable enough to fans for them to have landed in Playboy? I always thought Lara Croft being multifaceted in such a way was really interesting. She had layers. If you never played the games and just knew Lara from face value, you'd think the games were saturated with sexual innuendo, when in actuality, her looks were never a heavy front and center thing in the game. It was a case of not judging a book by its cover. Sure, she would casually flirt and tease you here and there.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
But the gameplay and story took precedence over any sort of fan service. It was not a case of having a clickbaity character and a mediocre game. In reality, Lara was hot and her games were even hotter, and that's called smart marketing. Looking back on a time when Lara was at the height of her popularity, I'm reminded that her climb to success was not as easy as people would think. There was always that struggle for Core Design to maintain this certain image of Lara Croft. She was the unattainable, brilliant beauty, and it was always a difficult tug-of-war between how much appeal she was allowed to have, because again, Core Design was really insistent on maintaining her non-X-rated image. You can be hot and cool, but in the 90s it was kinda hard. Back in the 90s, with the internet being a new budding medium, some hardcore tech-savvy fans managed to cause a bit of a stir with the mainstream media by threatening the image of Core Design and Lara Croft. In today's video, I want to take a look back at the infamous Nude Raider scandal. How does that sound? In the late 90s, a website surfaced known as the NudeRaider.com. The web ring displayed a slew of high-quality pornographic fan images of Lara Croft. The Nude Raider website stood out because it was the first time we saw nude images of Lara that wasn't poorly drawn 2D fan art. These were actual character mods and 3D images of a naked Lara, and with 3D technology being so limited to the general public, it made these images look even that more official and that more convincing. Not long after the website was published, rumors started flying around that you too can see Lara Croft in the nude, and all you had to do was implement a cheat code into your copy of the Tomb Raider to render Lara completely naked. This rumor, along with the website, blew up, and tons of young fans were scrambling to unlock a naked Lara by inputting a series of unsuccessful cheat codes and button combinations. Now I know what you're thinking, how is this remotely scandalous? There are hundreds of unofficial nudes of video game characters that have been circulating the web for years. This is really nothing special. Nudes of Lara Croft are character almost expected, given how popular she was at the time. Today, if you want to see your favorite video game character in a compromising, sexually explicit position, all you really have to do is type their name into a Google search. Or just follow a fan artist on Twitter and let their likes wreak havoc on your timeline. But in 1999, it was an all-around different time. Sure, nudie drawings existed, but to have a full-fledged 3D image of Lara in all her 32-bit glory was definitely alarming. As I said before, not many average people were capable of producing graphics like that unless you worked in a large studio as an animator or were some kind of game dev. So to release something like that would not only fool the fans of the series, but also cause a bit of a stir with the general public, who wouldn't be wise to the fact that the images were not only unofficial, but totally fabricated. Lara Croft was essentially one of the first video game characters to fall prey to the overly enthused modders of her community. Lara Croft was the original female video game character to fall prey to the fappening. You suck. Oh, come on, I thought it was funny. Core Design was shook. Word about the website and alleged cheat code started spreading faster and was eventually picked up by a magazine known as EGM Magazine, who published an article acknowledging the existence of the site and provided the website name for readers of the magazine to search up the nude images. They also let their readers know that they don't condone or approve of it in any way, shape, or form, so you know it's okay. They're in the clear on that one, boys. After the publication of said article, EGM was unsurprisingly bombarded with letters from angry parents and family members, which they addressed in their fan letter portion of their follow-up issue, responding to their readers in a patronizing manner with things like, "Good thing you're a responsible big sister, Miss Hopkins, and refuse to let your little brother go to the site, right? Very responsible and professional, EGM, just keeping in line with that good old 90s bad boy charm." Needless to say, EGM did not handle these public criticisms very well, and their response had only reflected worse on the image that Core Dynamics was trying to keep intact. It was a big old bag of yikes, and I'll try and provide links to some of their saucy responses in the description of this video. Core Design had a lot of fears that this would be the thing that would soil Lara's PG-13 image and damage her reputation. I mean, her career had taken off to a point where she was sponsoring products that had nothing to do with the Tomb Raider franchise and was appearing in promotional ads for other products. She became such a household name that she was even appointed as the unofficial ambassador for British scientific excellence by Science Minister Lord Sainsbury, which is insane because she's not even real. At this point in time in Lara's career, she was like a real-life mini-celebrity. But having the Nude Raider website exist, and the cheat code rumor continuing to make waves, was too much of a risk for Core Dynamics to gamble with, and was not the sort of publicity they were looking to garner. The company didn't want Lara Croft to be associated any way, shape, or form with pornographic material online, as many of their fans were under the age of 18. So as a result, later that year, Eidos and Core Design filed a cease and desist letter to the owners of NudeRaider.com, who were hosting the Nude Raider Patch. The site was eventually shut down, and Eidos Interactive was awarded the rights to the domain name to ensure that something like that would never happen again. And just like that, it was over. All the public outcry came to a halt, and Lara would continue raiding tombs free of any scrutiny. The age of the Nude Raider was finally over. Looking back on it, it seems entirely silly that something like that even blew up in the first place. But you have to remember, 3D art was in its infancy in the 90s, and if someone had the means to create 3D porn of a video game character marketed to children, it would have inevitably caused a stir. Since the controversy, the company behind Tomb Raider has had more of a sense of humor about the whole thing, and have even jokingly referenced the scandal in Tomb Raider ads, and even went as far as making a nude Lara Croft cheat code where instead of revealing her to be naked, she instead explodes into millions of little pieces. I think what scares me the most about the Nude Raider story is that it makes me think about like how something like this is just not even possible in today's day and age, but is totally within the realms of possibility to happen in the future to, let's say, public figures like actors or politicians. Technology has already progressed to a stage where people in Asia are already programming AI newscasters that look practically identical to humans. If someone with that sort of technology wanted to damage the reputation of a known figure for a moment in time, well, what's stopping them? So here's a life lesson. Get your nudes out into the public before someone makes a 3D realistic model of you and does the job for you. That's actually not a very good life lesson. I just wanted to tell you guys about the Nude Raider scandal stuff. Forget I said that last bit. You would not believe how impossible it was for me to try to come up with alternate titles that didn't involve the words nude or boob or breasts. I really didn't want this video to be demonetized or pushed down within the search engines, but there's literally no other way around it. So I kind of just gave up. I decided to keep Nude Raider in the title. I even asked the people over on Twitter to help me come up with a clever title, and even though I didn't end up using any of them, I'd say I've got myself a pretty nice collection.
The Noodle Raider.
Yeah, maybe something like the infamous Tomb Raider Saucy mod or something.
Rise of the Boob Raider. Lara Croft gone wrong.
Tomb Raider, Angel of Horniness. Lara Croft, Brit Raider.
Okay.